Spoken mate, I haven't thought about flying for a long time. I haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. I haven't dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green grass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past or scratched on the doors of my origins, where it all came from, since I held up that cape for the last time.
Return to Kent Town 10th Year Anniversary Edition is a revised version of Andy N's first poetry book. The book can be purchased from Amazon and it contains numerous additional material.
Spoken Label. Hi, it's Andy N from Spoken Label. Thank you today for streaming or downloading another episode of Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up on beginning of 2016 and as of speaking has currently nearly 300 sessions. The full archive is available on Spoken Label bandcamp.com. Although it is available for free for stream and download if you wish, I am always grateful for any sort of kind of donation to enable me to keep the running costs of this podcast going. And enjoy. Take care. Bye bye. Spoken Label.
Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, back in the house Wednesday evening. It's a bloody cold night out there as well for an October today as well. So to warm it up, we've got some great poetry. And we've got a wonderful lady with me today as well. Now, I'm going to make her blush like fuck today, because I'm swearing already. Now, I've got the fantastic Isabelle Byrne with us today as well. Now, I'm going to be frank here, Isabelle. I'm going to really make her blush.
Oh, no.
I met you about a year ago, didn't I? Over
Yeah.
on Nice Speakeasy.
Yeah.
And this shows you how alert I am with people sometimes. Because whenever, obviously, people know it's come to our night in Cholton Speakeasy. If I see somebody there that's not, I know for a fact not read, I will go up to them and talk to them and see if they're enjoying the night.
Oh, yeah.
And I did that, Isabelle, last year.
Yeah, you did.
Not realising what monster I'd unleashed on the Manchester Poetry Circuit.
But you regret it now.
Now, obviously, Isabelle, before we come on to that, I've got plenty to talk about today, including your book as well. But I'll tell people a little bit about yourself, first of all, then. Obviously, who you are, where you come from, and what started you off in creativity. So people will find out you've been active for the past year, but it goes back before that. I know for a fact it does.
Yeah, so I say I'm a Mancunian poet. I am originally from Manchester. Not sure where my accent's from. Don't think anyone does.
It's a very distinctive accent. That's why,
isn't it? It's a bit bizarre, but you know, we'll. It's working for me, so I'll take it. So yeah, no, I've been writing for about 10 years. I think I properly started writing in my second year of uni, and that kind of all coincided with a dip in my mental health. And yeah, so I didn't do it on purpose, and I wasn't a writer. I was studying sociology at the time. In fact, I'm severely dyslexic.
I didn't know that.
I didn't start reading till I was 7, and no one knew.
Oh wow!
I was very sneaky about not being able to read.
Is that someone that runs in your family? Because you say that
is.
Sort of thing.
It is, unfortunately.
Because I'm dyspraxic myself, and my mum is terribly dyspraxic, but she never got diagnosed.
No, the same goes for my mum. So my mum's dyslexic. My elder sister's dyslexic. My sister, they said she was, and then she wasn't somehow. Like, she's the only person that's ever beaten dyslexia. So I really struggled when it came to the rules and regulations of the English language. And I think my mum basically knew I was struggling. So she started buying poetry books. And she said, well, because they rhyme, I thought it would make it easier for you. Well, I was in love with poetry then, because, you know, the rules weren't the same. You know, it was, you basically got all the tools that you needed and made whatever you needed out of it, without probably the proper punctuation, which I still struggle to this day.
I've been writing, you know how long I've been writing. I'm useless with commas. 40 years of writing, I'm stuck shit with commas. Can't do it.
Yeah, they're either there or they're not, and that's their existence. So
of course.
But yeah, my mum said, I'd been told all, when I was a kid, don't do English, don't do anything that requires a lot of writing. And my mum was like, but your command of the language is so much greater. And basically, what I think is anyone that's kind of struggled with their identity tends to search the English language for different words and different metaphors to better explain themselves. So it becomes like a tool of it is a tool of communication, but in a completely different way. So it kind of started when I was at uni and my mental health was going down. I was a bit of a poet skeptic at the time. Didn't want to tell anyone that I was writing poetry.
You were a closet poet, really?
100% closet poet. Didn't want to tell, and really till up until standing up and getting my work out there. I think people don't realise that how powerful poetry can be when it, in terms of recovery, and that that sense of being heard. It kind of became my way of being my own confidant when I didn't feel like I could tell people the dark sides of what I was going through, and I just wasn't ready to talk about it. So it became kind of like a process that I wasn't sleeping at the time, so I might as well get some words down. So it's really interesting, especially with the collection that we're about to talk about, because it does span back to 10 years ago.
Oh wow!
From that writing.
I was wondering that, obviously. Well, someone's just in a minute. Obviously, I want people to first of all to realise you. Obviously, like we'll talk back to you when you came to Speakeasy. Then first of all, I don't know how you found out about Speakeasy actually. So that's something I don't know, because all I saw was this. And I'm not going to say, I hate to use the word girl because you're a woman. You're very young. Okay, she'll say young lady. That's better.
It's because I'm 5'2". It's
you're Amanda's height, aren't you? So of course, my wife, that's why. People wondering, I was like, I came up to you Speakeasy, and I didn't know who you were.
No.
All I saw was you shaking at the back, and I thought, I want to say something. Because I thought this poor lady's terrified. Was that the first night you'd ever been to them? Was it last year when you came to Speakeasy?
So I think and it's interesting, isn't it? Because different places in the UK, the scene isn't as predominant as it is in Manchester.
No, it's really, you're definitely right. Manchester at the moment it goes to phases, I think. And I've seen a couple of them, and it's got a really vibrant phase at the moment.
So good at the moment. And I think when I was at uni, so I went to uni at Nottingham, there was no scene whatsoever. And if it was a scene, it was like you had to travel 4 miles out on a bus to a pub that, and it was just really bizarre. And I'd sit in the back with my notebook and, tell myself that I'm going to go and stand up and do it. Well, must have been 10 years after that.
Oh, it took you that long, did it? Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think it was last year and I was having a really hard time, and I think a lot of people started suffering after the pandemic of like, what is life right now? And I was and there's a real slump, and I kind of just had this epiphany that I hadn't been concentrating on the things that I enjoy and the things that I like and the things that make me feel good about myself. And I was, really a bit of a shell of who I was, as you saw, and I just thought, I need to do this. I want to do this. I've been wanting to do this for ages. I've got a few new poems that I've written, and I'm ready, and let's do this. So I turned up, didn't say anything, and then I think it was the second or the third time I went to Speakeasy.
Third it was, because you came up to me. I got your name off your second time. You wouldn't even tell me your name in the first time you came.
I was like, it's okay.
I'm convinced you probably thought I was trying to hatch on whatever it is, make a move on you. I'm not even that way inclined.
Oh no. I know. I think I was so in a place where my social anxiety was crazy. And it's weird, isn't it? Because, a lot of poets, we're all these shivering, anxious, neurotics that all turn up into one room, don't want to talk to each other, sit there in silence for 2 hours, and it's a incredibly healing process. And it's you kind of get there, and you automatically feel like people are listening for once.
Oh yeah,
people have got, they're listening to people's problems that you don't hear of every day, that people are too scared of saying, and some people in the audience might be too scared to say what they're going through, but there's someone on stage that's saying it for them. And I just think it was the safest place for me to get better, I think.
No, I think it does. It's a massive curing process. I don't write a lot of the therapy programs I used to when I was younger, but certainly I'm probably more because I'm clever at hiding it nowadays in my work. But yeah, you're right. You need it sometimes to get it out, definitely. And it's like your first time last year for me was a real moment, and I've seen it. Your confidence just build. You've gone like that incredibly quickly from like 2 times us. You were actually physically shaking on your first time. And like if people see you nowadays, you go on that stage and you absolutely own it. There's no 2 ways about it.
People say that, and I'm like, can't believe. It's interesting because I think for very self-conscious people, when you get on that stage, you don't know what you're technically doing.
It took me probably 5 years to get rid of the imposter syndrome myself. And I've been reading 15 years now, so I've been there a long time. You do it. It's not something. It takes time to get used to it, really, doesn't it?
It does, and I think even sometimes, I think it was Verbose on Monday, having a terrible day. I was having a terrible day. I must have fluffed it twice, and the atmosphere is so loving and so caring. People came up and said that was an amazing piece, and I'd go, I fluffed it, and they go, doesn't matter, it was a great piece. Congratulations. And it was. It's not a pity party, these places. It's a genuine.
No, there's genuine love. Place. There's so many nights you've had that, and we're not going to go on. Obviously praising all the nights, you're right, but there's so many good nights in Manchester. And like I know, for example, this week, we're going to admit this now. I know you were at Verbose on Monday night, and you were over in Bolton on Tuesday night.
Yeah,
and you're with me on a Wednesday night. You've probably got something else lined up Thursday and Friday now, probably as well.
I'm at Switchblade on Sunday. I know.
Oh,
I'm addicted. Wow. I'm officially addicted. This is, some people, have certain things that they do. Some people have baths. Some people drink wine. This is my addiction now.
Same for me in a way, because obviously I'm not doing anything else this week after this, but I've got a podcast on Sunday night with a novelist, actually. I've got to send you a link over to her as well, because she's a very, very interesting novelist from York who wrote quite literally a split book about mental health, and that's fascinating. And then Tuesday night, I'm speaking to somebody else. That's it. No, that's Sunday night, actually. Sunday night, I'm speaking to a ghost hunter on a Sunday night, spoken label. I've got 3 in a week this week, but it's not normally like that. Then that novelist on Tuesday night, Then Wednesday night.
Quite wholesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it comes in spasms. I tried to do one a week for everybody, people wondering. This week's going to be 4 because I'm meeting an Australian poet who's on tour on Wednesday night.
Oh, fantastic opportunity.
And we're not, they can't resist it. And then speak easy next Thursday. So, and I need to speak to you about that afterwards as well. But anyway, we'll come on to that in the breaks. I've got to ask you. Anyway, listen, we better move on because I want people to tell you about your book now, obviously. Now, obviously, first of all, your book is called Pandora's Ruin. Yeah. Now, you've sort of hinted already, some of these pieces have got about 10 years. Has this book always been there for 10 years, has it, or has it just come together more recently?
So I would say this is definitely been up until I submitted it, which was in January. So I've got work in there from last year. I've got work in there since December. I've got work in there since 10 years ago. Wow. And it's interesting because everything about it changes. You can tell that it's me. But it really, even the writing takes you on the journey. So the start, you can definitely see there's elements in some of the kind of shorter poems that I've written. That is literally because my attention span at the time was so bad.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So So I'll take it then with your poetry, because obviously we're going to do a deep dive in the book anyway, because I've got it in front of me here. Like it's I certainly know what you mean that. I've gone the other way reading the poets. I used to write really long poems. Mine nowadays, most of the ones I'm writing haikus. So I've really gone really minimal. So yeah. Now, obviously,
I think it's like whatever you used to do, you kind of fall in love with the other side, don't you?
Yeah. Now, obviously, you've said I've got the book with me, but we want to talk about specifically about 4 pieces in your book, and so we'll go through them in order. And obviously, I really enjoyed Cuckoo, which is the first piece we're going to talk about. And I found it interesting. Obviously, like, this is people who look at your collection, they will see this is the second piece in the book. And am I right in thinking your first piece, Understand Me, would you regard that as like a prologue leading into the first piece, Cuckoo, in the book?
Well, yeah. So this is, I think, Understand Me. It's interesting because I didn't write that 10 years ago. I must have written that about 5 years ago. And that was about around the time that I was coming out of hospital. And I'd basically got to this point where I was just fed up of being lonely. And the only reason that I'd been lonely is because I'd made myself lonely. I'd isolated myself, and I thought, I don't want anyone to get close. And then when you get to that point where you are in the depths of darkness and you're alone, you really do want someone to be there.
Yeah, you do. It's almost like you want it too much sometimes, I think.
Yeah,
and this is a really hard-hitting poem, this one, actually, as well.
Yeah, I think it's quite, I think a lot of my work's quite raw, and it doesn't seem, if you'd picked it apart, that it would be. But I think you can really sense the way that I write things is this desperation almost. And that really was it. This was my kind of way of tackling an unruly mind. And I was doing it on my own, not that you have to do it on your own. And that's kind of the lesson in this book, is that
I think we need to stay, obviously, before we carry on, but I think obviously what you're saying, Base, is poetry, people wondering, they think it's a solitary business. Nowadays it is not. And this is a piece, I think, where you wrote before you discovered that, probably, and that's why I think it's probably twice as hard, heavy hitting, really.
Exactly. And I think the joys of the book is that it kind of, there's a lot of to and froing, and it seems quite like there's cycles going on throughout it. So, understand me, it's all about, please understand me, and then it's like, don't come any closer. And I think this idea of my book being something to do with mental illness, I think it's more to do with the processes of recovery afterwards. So the way that we see ourselves is, completely different, especially after illness as it is before illness. And, I always believed that I should hide all of the weaknesses that I had. And a lot of the issues that I suffered from were me putting it on myself. All this stigma wasn't necessarily about the people that were surrounding me. It was these internal voices that kind of perpetuated this loneliness, and, well, in turn made me into a writer. So it kind of became a tool. And I think it's interesting because, to me, it is like Pandora's box, in the sense of I shoved everything down into writing and I squirreled it away, and it wasn't supposed to be let out. This was never supposed to be seen. So the fact that, this whole process of standing up, talking about it, talking about, things that I've been through that no one else talks about, I think is, it's a part of the problem as to why people don't want to talk about it, is there is no narrative out there. And I don't mean like we should sugarcoat everything and go, this cures it all. And the answer is that these processes are so difficult. And it's just incredibly important that you find your own way through it. But also that I think, again, I realized that my writing only became therapeutic when I started sharing it. It was almost a dirty secret before, but now it's out, and that's the therapy. the therapy of it.
Yeah, I've got to ask you, obviously, people are wondering, obviously, we talked about Pandora's box. Why did you come up with the title of Pandora's Ruin then?
So, for middle name, Pandora. Secondly, ruin, because I studied sociology at university. I'm a big lover of sociologists. A lot of the work that I enjoyed was about identity creation and also ruined identities.
Right, get it. I get it now. Yeah, that explains why. So yeah.
So there's a guy called Irving Goffman, a lot, even if he did social work and things like that, he comes up and he does things about institutionalization, and he also does things about stigma, and it tends to be the stigma of sickness.
Right, yeah.
And it's this, basically you're kicked out of society because you can't function the way that everyone else does. So we kind of harbor this idea that we have a ruined identity and we have to then live on the outskirts of society, knowing that we have this label on us that's kind of imprinted. And I think this idea that, people go, oh, there's a stigma out there, and as much as it's, we have come so far in terms of mental illness, in terms of disability, we are still stuck within narratives that are like asylums. And as much as part of my book is about being in hospital and being in a psychiatric unit and receiving electroconvulsive therapy, to me, the point of me bringing that into a conversation is because it's not in the conversation, and it's not really me going, this is a naughty treatment or this is a good treatment, or because I genuinely believe people work differently, people have different types of treatments that work for them in different ways, but to me there should be a place where people feel okay to have taken that option.
Of course.
And there's just nothing out there. There's literally, you can Google it, you can, there's hardly any interviews, there's hardly any literature, it's bizarre. Like people just, and unfortunately part of it is because people that do receive ECT tend to stay within these institutions.
Second point we also want to talk about, particularly in this book, is the land. Now this is quite a different one, because there's obviously, I could see from when I was reading this piece back before, there's a number of layers in this. I got a mythical layer on this, but it says to me that there's a cleansing issue in this piece straight away. So, but I think it's probably a bit of a combo of both. So tell us about the land then, your second piece you want to talk about.
Interestingly, I remember saying this piece, and I think it was at that Stockport Gallery.
Oh, you read it there, did you? That was a while ago.
And I remember you emailing saying, I really enjoyed that piece. It was very different from what you usually read. And I've always had like it's one of my older ones, probably 10 years old. And I think it's more poignant now because it was almost a way of, it was me kind of exploring that I had, I felt like I didn't have any, I was very dependent and I didn't know how my life was going to turn out. And I was really worried and scared. And it was really just me kind of being like, it's going to be all right. You've got this. And the kind of the way that I wrote it was really through imagery. Like, I think I started with an image first of swimming out. And that horrible feeling, when you're swimming away from the shore and you're like, oh gosh, is it going to get choppy? I'm not gonna do very well here. And I think, and it also combines a few, like I used to have nightmares of going underwater or, being trapped and uncomfortable. And so I kind of, it was my way of breaking down those fears of dependence and these fears that I had but didn't need to have. I didn't need to think about them all the time. I didn't need to worry if I was going to have a house or a job, or I was at uni. So yeah, it was definitely a process, a mind process with that one. But I really enjoy that because it's quite a different pace, I think, than the others.
Yeah,
it's like serene. It's a bit not spooky, but it's uneasy.
There's an undercurrent in that piece, there is, and I've got a piece like that I've just wrote myself, and it's what you've done, and it works really well for you. Is like you don't tell everybody exactly what's going on, and I'm always a believer in sometimes holding things back in pieces, make you read the work for it. And that piece really does work well, that one, because that I picked up. I wasn't sure what was going on, but I knew there was an issue. You're trying to de-process it. I mean, that's a good word for it. No, excellent. Now, the third one I want to talk about, you're going to tell me the title is, because my distraction is kicking in here. Is this Lackadaisical Head? Have I got that right?
Oh, it's all right. Lackadaisical Head. Yeah.
I know. Oh, I'm glad I don't drink nowadays. So if I've been drinking forever, that title out, and I dread to think what I would have said.
It's fine. Don't worry. You know what? It's because I absolutely love the word lackadaisical, and for years I've had it in the back of my every notebook of how I'm going to fit this word in, because I will.
I need it.
And I realised, why are you trying to rhyme the actual word lackadaisical?
Oh, it's I know you rhyme a lot more than I do, because I'm shit at rhyming. But do you find there's some words like an absolute nightmares, aren't you? You want to use them, you can't use you can't use them.
Yeah. Well, this one's that, but I think a lot of poets, I think a lot of writers, their love for English language, when you pick up on different etymologies of words, it can be just something that you hear and then you write down, and you're like, I've got to use that now. And I think lackadaisical, so it's like a bit like whimsical, laid back, kind of ditzy kind of essence, lackadaisical. So that Lackadaisical Head is actually, it's quite a dark poem there, and it actually goes through a lot of mythology. There's things like the Charons kissing the Charon for trade, going down the river. And basically a lot of my work kind of plays upon these ideas of good and evil, and these binaries that I've never fit within. And so I always tend to question them in my work. And it's like, why not? If you're telling me that I'm this, bad person, I'm on the outskirts of the earth, then I'm going to enjoy my time here. And that's I think one of the lines in it is, the gate, it's not the gate of heaven, it is the gate of hell. And it says, come as you are. And I think it's this element that heaven is not, was never given to you as, as you are. You have to be your best. You have to do all these things. You have to tick all the boxes. And actually, those who are on can't fit the bill end up thinking, oh God, great, I'm going to go to hell now. And actually I'm going, well, if that's where all the creatives are, then I think that's where I need to be. But yeah, no, quite a few of my poems do that kind of binary check, which I think people find, you think you're followed by the devil, or all these types of things. And it's not about that. It's just saying how rigid these rules that we've been following are, when actually, take the boat ride.
I think that's a great way of putting it. It leads, I think, really well into your last piece that I'm going to talk about as well, the title poem, actually.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably if it's not the longest poem in the collection, it's probably one of them. Pandora's Ruin.
It is. It's quite epic, that one.
It's a real epic one, that one as well. So, okay, I'm going to just let you talk about that one. Tell us about where this one came from then.
Right. So this is actually the last poem I wrote for this book.
Ah, right. I was wondering that, because I know the books I've done sometimes over years, I sometimes say the title piece to be wrote last.
Yeah.
Even though I might set the title out early on. Yeah. So, and was it, obviously because of the length of it, because it is a very long piece, this one.
Yeah.
Was it quite a difficult piece for you to write, this one, was it?
Well, actually, the thing is a lot of people go, oh, what's your process? As if there is just one process. And I'm like, no, I have For different poems, it takes completely different.
Yeah.
Like completely different. Depends on what kind of thing I'm talking about, whether it's dark, whether it's light. For this one, I think it took me about a month in total.
Wow.
But my process consists of don't tell the DVLA when I drive to work, is in the morning my mind is on it, you know, and if I usually give myself a prompt, and whatever comes to my head, verses, prose, whatever, I will scribble down either on a receipt by the side of me or on my hand. I then collect these little prose and verses for about a month, and then I compile them on my computer. So it's an absolute nightmare. Like where I live is just covered in pieces.
What do you do? Do you have them all like nailed in your wall? Do you, or sellotape?
No, it's even worse than that. It's just piles underneath, like old cigarette packets and like cereal bar wrap. It's just, yeah, it's
organized.
A single woman's life. That's what that is.
Oh my God.
Really just.
So tell us about how this book has developed through joining Bent Key then.
So, I mean, it's really interesting because, I mean, I didn't realise that Bent Key was such a baby when I'd submitted my work. I just didn't know. Because it was, you know, she launched it so well. You know, I thought it'd been going for years. And yeah, it literally had started in that January, which I didn't realise. So I'd sent off my work to Benke, Becca Kenny, and I think it was a couple of months after that, and she basically turned around and gave me the thumbs up, and I think I sent an email that was like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. Thank you for, you know, taking the time to read my work. I'm so excited. So yeah, so I was just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it at all. I think you know, when you get to that point where you're like, I don't think anyone's listening when you're submitting your work.
Oh God, yeah, completely. No, completely. Like, it was obviously it's a fantastic looking book. I've seen the PDF straight away with it.
Yeah.
Did you find that did Rebecca give you a lot of like support during the creation of the book or anything?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously Benke kind of prides itself on working with people with neurodiversity, people with dyslexia, people with autism or Asperger's, and so she really does take the time to kind of get to know your process and really get to understand your work before she gets back to you on things. And you know, the amount of absolute, you know, she is doing everything in that publishing company, and it's absolutely incredible. So she really, it is like going through a funnel. So you know, she talks, you know, have a sit down with you to talk about what you want with it and how you want everything to go. She's very much about, you know, making sure you keep the rights to your own work, that you're getting a good deal, unlike some other publishers that tend to, you know, rinse you.
Yeah, I know a few.
I think, and the front cover process is absolutely incredible. I mean, that is really down to the graphic designer named Sam, and she does the covers, and she has her own company called Smash Designs. Absolutely, like the most intuitive human I think I've ever worked with. So she was like, give me a pin board on Pinterest, and I will come to you with 3 ideas and I'll have a look at your manuscript. Well, I couldn't pick. I was like, oh my gosh, like literally. And it wasn't, you know, it's not when you kind of have, oh, this is what I want, like you've kind of already got your mind set on what you want, and then you didn't realize this is actually what you wanted. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely incredible. Some of the details that she's put in, and especially, you know, because you know, a lot of my work's got mythology, symbolism in it. and I have it here.
Yeah. Now, if people are obviously watching it on videotape, they'll see that's the book itself.
Yeah.
I've got the PDF in front of me, and it's brilliant in print out. But I've got to buy that book yet, and particularly after I'm well looking forward to getting the card copy of it as well. So it's tremendous.
It is such a beautiful. I think it's like an art piece, if I'm honest, and I'm going to say that. But I mean, all the designs of Benki, all of Sam's designs are just, you can't help but want to pick them up. It's like being in a candy shop when you look at all of them.
Brilliant. Okay, now a couple of things I want to wrap up on here, obviously, too. So obviously, I want to spend some time with you, do your pieces in the second half. Now, I always like to wrap up 2 points on this. Now, one, obviously, the first book's done now. So where do you envisage your creativity going next? Because I know you've been doing some videos, haven't you, as well on YouTube?
Yes. So I've always loved doing my videos. And it's interesting because a lot of that kind of works around like narratives. So I used to say, when you feel a bit different and you're younger, and I really went into film, and I found, all these kind of quirky, maybe bit macabre, bit depressed young women in French movies, and that gave me, that gave me a place, gave me a position, gave me, confidence that I'm all right being this way. And yet now I think after I come out of hospital, after the ECT treatment, I really struggled to find any narratives. And I really do like the visual elements of things as well. So I started creating them. So, some of the videos that I'm doing, they're quite dark. A lot of the imagery is quite dark. Sort of I like to use editing, kind of William S. Burroughs snipping style to kind of create this kind of chaotic layered effect that kind of goes with the music and also the spoken word on top of it. But yeah, no, I've just had one of my videos screened last week at Festival Povera, which is just a small arts festival in Manchester. But I was like, life complete.
Brilliant. Do you think is that the direction you want to go into more then?
I do. I mean, I am a big creative person, and I'm a big as she says, I'm currently covered in expanding foam.
I'm not asking.
Don't not wear gloves when you use that. It's literally for the last hour I've been trying to get this off my hands. But yeah, so I like to use clay. I like to paint. I think I concentrated on painting a lot more before I started doing my writing more seriously. I'm not a very good painter, I'm not going to lie, but I enjoy it.
I will say something, mind you, like about that. It's like I've done painting the years. Average to crap at it, to put it nicely. But I'm always a firm believer when you master one art form, it's easier sometimes to master a second and a third and a fourth. And that's like I've got the figures. I've got that freedom. It seems to connect something out your brain. That's why. So I knew about you in the videos and you're doing the paintings. Like you will always what you want to do next anyway. So I always say so.
I'm going to stay being probably a phlebotomist.
Probably right. I'll probably have been a gobshite on this obscure podcast channel. But
exactly. Well, there you go. That's all right. As long as you get to do whatever makes you happy, it doesn't matter how you do it.
That's what I mean. I think I know the last time I saw you in person last week, and I was winding you up between your pieces saying, "Tell us a joke, Isabelle," and you went and did it. So we might have a stand-up comic version you put up next anyway. Yeah,
I did my monkey one. It was great.
It was a great joke. We'll get Mike to tell that another day. So now, obviously, I want to get some pieces done off you now. So to give you the hard sell now.
Yeah.
Where can people find your book first of all?
Okie dokie. So you can find my book on Benki Publishing online. You can also find it on Waterstones online. And if you are in the Manchester area, you can find it at Home Manchester.
Oh, you find it there as well, can you? Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. Which is very exciting For
Well,
me,
well done.
anyway, because I'm a cinema lover.
Oh, me too as well. Don't get to see as many as I'd like to nowadays. But yeah,
No.
brilliant. Well done with that. So,
Thank you.
and if people want to find out more about you as a person online, where do you recommend they go?
I would direct you straight to my Instagram, probably first. So it's Isabelle P. Byrne, and underneath that there should be a link tree. You can go on my YouTube channel where you can see all my videos. On Benki Online, there's some interviews, and I'm going to be popping up some other works coming up soon. I've just done a piece for Mind blog online. So.
Well done, brilliant. Okay, look forward to seeing that, definitely. So, right, anyway, we better wrap up this point. I want to get you onto your poems of voice because we'll be here all night. So tremendous as well. Well, thank you again, and we'll hang around, everybody. We'll see you all in 2 minutes.
Spoken Labour.
Yes, and the end. Wonderful Isabelle Byrne. Straight over to Isabelle. She's going to do 3 pieces for us from a book. Over to you, Isabelle.
So the first one I'm going to do is called Cuckoo. I'm no lead in this story. I'm just like all the rest. I'm just another cuckoo that couldn't quite clear the nest. I struggle just being a social contender. My soul is lost, time to return to sender. Drawn to the darkness, hoping it will validate my faulty heart, not realizing it was my mind that needed to restart. I wasn't sure I wanted to be alive, but my pride is fed with the need to survive. I may have set myself on fire, romanticizing the flowers on my pyre, that each green laurel leaf I would earn was a sign of all the things I could never learn. All I knew was I had too much rock to burn. And the devil was my only friend. Each fatal plan he would lend, all the loved ones' rules I did bend, left with no call for help or flare to send. And so I accepted each tool to mend the mind that was no longer mine, praying to the devil just for a sign. I controlled every part of my life so much, my reality of reality was completely out of touch. And the chips in my marble body were all a mistake, that this person I had carved was just another fake. Staring from the inside at our fragmented land, watching it slowly seep into the earth like sand. All that had meaning no longer did, and just like the sand under my feet, I slid. I didn't know where I wanted to be, just that it wasn't here, that being left home alone became my greatest fear. And I was getting too tired to get it right, but couldn't afford to get it wrong, so I held on with all my might. And I'm such a good cheat, no one realized I had lost, or that I kept my mouth shut, not realizing the cost. I handed over tightly gripped reins, hoping the flames hadn't left a stain. I needed help, and they agreed I did too. And so to solve the unanswerable, the impossible would do. And not even they know how the electricity saves the special few, hoping the irons would positively ionize me all the way through. And they threw the kitchen sink in, not mentioning the toaster too. And now my hair is on end, and I think I forgot how to chew. Am I a magician or just another fool? This treatment seems to be so insidiously cruel. To strap me down and shock me surely isn't a rule. And this was the room I entered with pure lunacy, where somehow I'd agreed to be shocked with electricity, because I didn't fit within the acceptability of society. And I wanted nothing more than not to feel that in a shredder anymore. So I walked toward the sign that read ECT above the door, and so they turned the lights on, up inside my head. They even checked if anyone was at home, alive or dead. But when I woke, the world became just a sea of static. My head and dread ceased to be overly erratic. And now I'm alone, floating in the sea of static. I'm alive without reason or needing to know. And although my memory is now a little touch and go, they saved my mind in exchange for my soul. But what's the mind with no soul at all?
Fantastic. What a start. Wow. Well, you've actually exhausted me. Listen to that one, Isabelle. But beautifully read and great piece. So, like I said, now we're going to move on. I would like to move on something a bit lighter now, but we're not really, are we? So.
This one's a bit light.
Okay. Over to you for number 2, my friend.
This is called The Land. I swam from the land out and out into the sea. As I turned around, it had sunk far beneath me. I did not need this land, just the security it brought. It let me swim without worry. Now every kick is heavy with thought. And the waves lap my body, and as I begin to slow, the thought of that land and the familiar does grow. The more I think, the more I drown, filled to the top with sand, all in the hope of finding that sweet piece of land. And as I sink down, down, down into the ambiguous abyss, I search the seabed for that land of happiness. I soon find that I still have the strength to swim. I always did, but sometimes the brain is the weakest limb. The limb that can make your whole body lame. Look to the past, the land, there's something to blame. But I will continue to swim and empty my pockets of sand. And with this, I shall build my own piece of land.
Brilliant. I do really like that piece, Isabel. I know we've harked on about it already a few times today, but no, fantastic. Brilliant stuff again. We've lost you here in the picture there. Oh, yeah, we've lost you in a second on the picture as well. But fantastic piece. So again,
I know.
You know what it is? The emotion you put out in your work, obviously, crashed the Zoom then for a second. So, right, okie dokie. Right, well, I want you to go straight into your finale now, don't we? So, as I always say, spoken label, the big finale.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Okie dokie. So this one is called Lackadaisical Head. Who's going to save her when she's already dead? 2 braids wrapped around her lackadaisical head. Paint-dipped sleeves hold on to your sawdust hands under shady trees and shaky lands. She stares up into the twinkling between the green, wondering if she'll remember what she's seen, or when, or what it even means. Some get to be the trunk while the rest are just leaves, unless she is to deceive with the mighty web she weaves. And her tongue is out ready to catch the tears, big glazed eyes fit for does and deers. Tears fill her half-empty glass. One moment she's down, the next it's past. Looking up through clouded eyes, she tells herself that love always dies. She's electric, every touch a shock, jump the fence and try the lock. Unfazed and crazed inside her own maze, sadness just a haze that she blazes away, hoping to be asked to stay. And she's just washed up goods, fighting to find herself amongst the woods. Let the blossom fall from the branches so tall, hunting that rustling call. She's just washed up goods, keeps drifting on down. The boatman has been paid. She paid Sharon with kisses as trade, floating along in a wooden coffin she'd made. At the bow of the boat, the boatman stood, drifting down the river just as Ophelia did, meeting her fate and finally meets King Id. So drift, drift like the blossom and leaves, down the midnight river into stormy seas. So she drifts, drifting on by, ready to meet her fate. Come as you are, written above the gate.
I love the ending of that piece. Really evocative, that one. Fantastic, Isabel.
Yeah, people really like that one.
Yeah, it's, I'm always a believer with poetry. It's the sound as much as the words sometimes. There's a beautiful sound in the end of that piece. And it's really quite floaty, if that's the right
different.
word. So.
Yeah, it is.
No, fantastic. Anyway, we're going to wrap up shop anyway now, because I've got a few things to go through Isabel next anyway. So, and she will be appearing on the top of the label special as well. So we should be, is it before or after? Anyhow, you'll see her anyway. So anyhow, listen, Isabel, it's a pleasure as always. And thank you again for today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
We'll see you all soon. Take care, guys and girls. Andy and Isabel signing out.
Spoken Label.